I'm Linda Amon, and I'm going to be cleaning some palettes today. I have a number of them, probably about a dozen I'm going to need to clean. I have artists who I lend out my trays to, and sometimes they come back with these are actually pretty good. Sometimes they come back with all kinds of things. I'm going to give you a couple of the tools I'm going to use. I'm going to have a lot of fresh water. So I just have cold water about halfway full, and that way I can clean everything, know that I need to change the water often. I have a couple different brushes that are going to help me clean, and then I have a nutcracker to open any tubes to refresh the paint. I have what I call a dabber offer, which is just a rag that I will be using for some of the moisture content. Paper towel, a water spray bottle, so I'll do that right now. I'll get this kind of moistened up so that can kind of start. And this one here, it's pretty bad. I'm gonna let that moisten up a little bit. And then this is a brush cleaner. And this brush cleaner is the Masters brush cleaner. I have a small one here today. In my studio, I have one about this size, and it is full of the same kind of soap, and it takes myself and all of my students coming through my studio about a year to go through that soap. So most of you won't need anything more than about like this. All right, so we've moistened that up. I'm going to take some paper towel and I'm going to clean out the middle of the tray. I don't use cloth to clean out all of the paint in the tray, simply because I don't want to get that through my sinks and everything else. This is going to be able to be thrown away, and sometimes I launder all of my rags, and I don't want all that paint going through with the laundry. So this one's actually not too bad. We'll be pulling another one out here in a minute to show you. I don't ever moisten down all of my paints because they're fresh enough with the M. Graham paint that I don't need to do that. But this tray, this one right here, you can see it got a lot of red in there and it's almost empty. So I decided to take and get most of that out to get all of that invaded paint that came into that yellow. That's azo yellow, and it can be invaded and compromised very quickly. That's the one that I always have to replace after class, and it's the softer of some of the paints. I'm going to put a little paper towel here so that my rags don't get to my table, and I will just lay that down over there. So that one's starting to look a little bit cleaner. So I'm going to take another paper towel and just use a portion of it. The connoisseur brushes, this I've marked with a little piece of tape to show that's mine, but you can see it's got this nice little pointy edge thing to it. So what I can do is I can put a little water onto my rag, my paper towel actually, and I can get the corners really good. This one's already kind of done, but in here, where I want to get that extra yellow out to the corners and everything, I can just take that in and kind of get it out. I'm going to take and roll this over and just come along the edges and get some of that stubborn little bit of paint out. When I'm using these, lending these trays out, I don't clean them perfectly. I get them so that when they get the paint, it's not going to have a lot of mixed colors in there like this one has. So I'm just going to take a worker brush, is just a synthetic brush. I'm going to take and wipe that around and then siphon out or kind of dab out the color that I don't love in there. It had some red invaded in there too. And then I'll kind of come across that. So I will come across here. I'm going to pick up another tray here in a minute and show you how much I would clean it. I had some the other day come back from a class. Those are the ones I should have really shown because they were like every single well was bad. And then I had someone, or a couple people, which they don't know, they're learning, they used a really cheap brush and there were hairs in all of the paints. So I had to basically take and pull out the paint in all the wells that had the hairs embedded in there and put some, get the top of it off and get it clean. Let me pull another one here real quick. I'll set that one aside. Because like I said, I'm not going to show all of them to you, the dozens of it that I have to clean. But this one right here shows you, this is how they come back quite a bit. These right here, these two little marks, I told them to leave those little globs of paint. That was something they were going to just use for the day. And I left those in there because we'll use that paint up. But this other residue we'll take out. So I'm going to just spritz with a little bit of water those corners that I want to let loosen up just a bit, plain old water. And then while that's loosening, I'm going to paint out of the azo yellow in here. The other one, you know, was very invaded and did have to have it almost taken out of the well to get it all out. You'll see here, there's little hairs in here. So that was a cheap brush that someone used, like one of those little dollar brushes or, you know, really cheap brush. And so I'm having to get a little more of the top of that azo yellow out because of the little hairs that were left in. Sometimes you actually have to dig them out a little bit because we don't want those into our paint or into our painting itself. So this one over here needs a little bit of, again, just kind of painting off the top. You can hear me rinse really well. I usually go from my lightest colors to my darkest simply because my brush isn't going to be as dirty. The rest of these look pretty good. Now this has been moistened up, so I'm going to take the paper towel and come into here, leaving those two globs that I wanted to leave for another time, and then come around like that. Then take that connoisseur end of the brush, get my paper towel a little bit wet, take the end, which is going to be a plastic end. You don't want to do this with a wood end brush because then you're going to start breaking down the back of the brush. But the back of this brush is really nice because it's plastic. It comes in, you can see it really gets that corner stuff out. And this is, like I said, I'm not going to get these perfect because they're going to be just lent out again here probably this week. But I want to get it good enough that the next person that borrows this tray, or if it were my tray, then the palette would be clean enough that I wouldn't have to worry about the paint invading something that I wanted to be. All right, so I'm going to be filling some wells here in a minute, but I want to show you, in fact, let me do that next. I'll take and set this aside. We know the azo yellow here needs to be totally refilled, so I'm going to pick that color up here. See if I can find it quickly. Here it is, Azo Yellow M. Graham. And if the lid sticks, which mine never will, and I'll give you a little trick, but the main thing is if it sticks, just go to some place and get a nutcracker and just gently turn it off, and that won't ruin your tube up like a bad twist or anything. And then you're going to put it across a little bit, as much surface area as you can get rather than a blob. And then you're going to clean off the top of your threads and then put the lid back on. But I don't have it today, but if you take a little bit of Vaseline, you'll see this in another video that I'm going to talk about starting your tray for the very first time. But if you put a little bit of Vaseline on the threads and then you put the lid on and you kind of squish it around, then put it on, you'll never have them stick. So that's something that I generally do. Know that I go through so much paint in my own work and then in all the lending out of trays. I don't usually put the Vaseline on these because I'm going to be refilling trays pretty quickly. So these all look good. It looks like the gamboge could just use a little tiny bit. So the gamboge, I'm going to take, now that one stuck just a teeny bit, but over just ever so slightly. You can see I could twist that off. And it was probably just a little bit of the sugar or the honey got in there and did that. I'm going to wipe the top off here again. Put the lid back on. I save old lids once the tube is all gone because I have found that once in a while a lid will break, which is rare, but then I'll have a tube that I've saved to put back on there. So you can see how, here's another one that we just came away from this one. We kind of cleaned it up a little bit. This one, we'll put a little more azo yellow in there. Let me do that real quick. And then I'm going to show you a clever endeavor. I love those words. I'm going to use a clever endeavor here to show you how you can get the stain out of your tray. If your paint is staining your tray, that means there's a lot of pigment. So it's not a bad thing because you are getting paint that is in really good paint. This is my soap. I'm going to take just the slightest bit of water and use it a little bit like a paste. And I'm not going to clean this one all the way clean. You saw the one over here I had already done the other day. Let me pull it out. See, that one's pretty clean. Not all the way, but pretty clean. This one here, if I just take a little bit of soap like a paste, and then I just rub it on here, okay, stay out of my nice little paint over there that I'm saving. You're gonna wanna get all the residue, look at that. You're gonna wanna get all the residue out of the tray. So I'll take a little bit of water after I've done this because there's soap on here right now. But with just a little bit, a tiny bit of muscle work, and I could take and get this all cleaned up, sparkly, sparkly clean. But like today, I'm not gonna worry about it entirely because it's gonna be going out to the next person this week. And I do this every once in a while, make sure that it's all nice and clean. Then I'm gonna just take a little bit of water so that I can get any residue out of here, because certainly you do not want to have any of your soap left in there. So we'll just take a little bit here, and I could do a better job, but you're watching me and you want to get back to your painting and doing the things you're doing. So you can see the real difference on that by using a little bit of soap. And then I will clean my brushes and have everything ready. I'll clean the other trays. Like I said, I have about 12 to do today, and these will be all ready to use. The reason you want to keep your tray somewhat clean is if you put an azo yellow down here, you're going to see the pure color. If you had dirty azo yellow, or you take the azo yellow and put it into here, it's going to show the palette color between, and you're not going to know that your color is really pure or if it's the tray itself. So every once in a while I go through and clean everything up, and then I'm ready to go again. So hopefully this gives you some ideas. I'm going to be showing a video soon on how to start with the very beginning of filling your tray for the very first time and how you label it and all that, and I'll make a video that you can watch. But this would be just kind of the upkeep on your video, on your palettes, and that's what this video is for. Linda Amon, Amon Arts. Come visit me, and thank you for watching. Have a good day.